Today could not have come any sooner. I'm on my way to Layla's now. I got her a little something, a little happy no more paleo gift. You guys will have to stay tuned to see what I got her. I mean, you guys are smart. You can probably guess. Hi everyone, I'm Robina.
And I'm Layla.
Welcome back to our channel, Nutrition Unpacked.
Today is our last paleo video, which means we're almost done.
We have what, like 10 and a half hours-ish to go? We're almost there.
I know, I'm so happy.
This past week was like especially roller coaster ridey, but mostly the downhill part. So I just sat down for lunch and I have to admit, this week has felt a bit harder mentally. You know, doing the true paleo with no salt at all, I almost feel bitter about it. When we had that dinner with the friend that made us a amazing chicken taco meal, it was so delicious. I think I forgot what it feels like to enjoy your food. And that meal, it was so good that it was a reminder of that. And I found myself being a little more bitter. On that note, cheers to another tasteless lunch. Tell me what your experience was like the last few weeks.
Going into the paleo diet, it was both harder and less hard than I expected. When you see the paleo diet, you're like, okay, it's not really restrictive of that many things. So I was like, oh, this should be pretty easy. Like just cut out a few things here and there that I normally eat. But the hardest thing was like the no salt. But like once I kind of in the middle, in week 2 and week 3, I think was when I was really in a groove. Week 1 and week 4, not so much in the groove.
Okay guys, so I'm gonna make my lunch. There's literally a pizza party going on right now that I cannot participate in. Instead, I'm having my salmon and my kale slaw. So lucky me, no pizza for me. Instead, I'm having salmon and kale. Thank you, Dr. Cordain.
I do completely agree that like on paper, doesn't feel that restrictive. And that's kind of why I wanted to start off with this, because I thought, oh, it'd be like a relatively easy transition, change a few things up, but not a big deal. And while all of that is true, I think maybe because it was my first actual diet ever, it sucked.
This is going to be done soon. I'm so happy. I'm already planning out my meals of what I want to have when I'm done. I've bought the ingredients to make Rice Krispie Squares. I don't even eat Rice Krispie Squares that often, but I've just been craving them. I bought those. I bought some bacon. Don't eat bacon that often, but I bought that. So I am so excited to be done. We're 2 days away.
I intellectually knew that all along. Dieting sucks. I don't think anyone is like enthusiastically going into a period of restriction or deprivation, but this was definitely eye-opening for me. I know like a lot of people go into paleo more for health reasons rather than weight loss specifically, but just within the context of diets as a whole, it made me realize like how much people desire weight. Like the fact that it's worth it for people to go through such levels of deprivation in the hopes of seeing some changes in their body. I think it like really made me even more aware how much people want that.
Absolutely. Honestly, that's really been on my mind throughout this whole entire thing. As you've mentioned, I've never gone on a diet. I've never really spent any active time thinking about my body weight. I also really see how diets often fail.
So the past couple weeks have been great because I've been very diligent in planning out my meals, but this week is the last week of paleo, and I think my motivation for being a good paleo person has really diminished. So I'm at the office today and I'm having to come to Loblaws to find a paleo lunch because I didn't pack anything. If I wasn't paleo, I probably would go to one of the many restaurants around the area, but I can guarantee that there's nothing paleo at any of them.
Like I can see how people can fail diet so often, because even as we've been going through this, if it wasn't for the fact that I was being held accountable to you and held accountable to all of you, I would have stopped doing paleo like day 2.
I'm having a really hard time finding things that are paleo. I'm looking in like the fresh produce section. I found like these salads, but as soon as I get a little bit down the ingredients list, I see there's like legumes or something in them.
I don't know without that accountability how I would have been able to move forward. I had really no motivation to do this really. So I don't know. And as we've been coming to the end of it, because I saw the end in sight, I've been prepping all these things I'm going to eat after the fact. So I see how, yo-yo dieting and weight cycling is is an issue. I feel like part of like human psychology. It's the way that we're wired.
Going into it, like I hear you kind of planning for the foods that you want to eat. And I think I'm trying to fight that urge because, you know, you hear about the restrict binge cycle. Like, you know, it's very common that when you diet and restrict and then you give yourself permission to eat those forbidden foods that people might go and kind of overeat or maybe even binge in those scenarios. I'm trying to fight that from happening because I can feel myself wanting to, like, to kind of stock up on all those foods and just plan to have this for breakfast, this for lunch, this for dinner. And like, I need to be like, no, all of these foods are always going to be available to me until we do our next diet.
Yeah.
It's okay. I do not need to cram it all into one day. Like, I'm trying to tell myself that. Do you feel like have you learned anything about yourself through this process?
I have the ability to stay on things better than I thought. I have absolutely zero. I felt like my self-control is like pretty low, but I feel like I've learned that having like external people to turn to and external forces for keeping me accountable to things is very, very a strong motivator. And I've always kind of known that I'm more externally motivated than internally motivated. I have also learned not so much about myself, but just about like life in general. It's brought me more aware of the fact of how big of a role food plays in like a social way.
When I opened up my little box of chocolates and that aroma hit me, my soul died a little bit.
Food is a way that brings people together, and I've felt left out a lot of times by having to refuse food, and I felt also like rude. I felt kind of like I'm outcasting myself socially.
It occurred to me, and I completely forgot about this, but like before I had gone back to school to become a dietitian, I went through a phase where I was kind of like all anti-processed foods. I think I was kind of like, ooh, processed foods are bad. And it was going through schooling and kind of learning actual nutrition science and stuff that I was like, okay, that was silly. So I've since kind of reintroduced all of those foods that I had been restricting. But it's interesting because at that time, because it was kind of like an internal choice, it didn't feel like a diet. It didn't feel like restriction. It felt like, oh yeah, I'm just doing what I thought was healthy and taking care of myself. But like kind of, even though I feel like I was kind of reverting back to what I was doing then, it felt very different this time because I know that it's not necessary.
So me and you are opposite then.
What do you mean?
That I need a lot of external motivation to do something, and then you were doing this before completely by internal motivation.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, you're right. I think I'm more internally motivated maybe in general. Or like I'm more at peace with it when it comes from inside.
I'm just scared of the consequences. I don't know. I feel like that's how I live my life. It's something I'm trying to work on. From the paleo diet, I know you said that you're trying to actively fight this urge to go and just like eat all the foods that you couldn't eat. Are there any aspects that you're trying to actively maybe include in your life after we're done this diet?
Here's the thing. I think, I know for sure that the last few weeks, I definitely increased my vegetable intake by a lot.
On my way to the grocery store once again because on this diet, I am just powering through my fruits and vegetables.
It's another day, another trip to the grocery store, which theoretically is a good thing, and I think is a good thing for probably a good chunk of the population. For me, I have all of these digestive issues. I used to have a very heavy vegetable intake diet, and I had actually somewhat recently over the last year cut back on it, and I saw that it actually improved. I sound like a carnivore. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. We went out for dinner at a sushi restaurant. When I was getting ready, I was actually kind of nervous and was kind of debating whether we should just put off the dinner just because I'm a Mackie roll kind of gal, and I knew that pretty much the only thing that I could order there that would stay within the true paleo guidelines was the sashimi. Anyway, we did end up going, and I was very pleasantly surprised, with the tuna, the salmon, octopus, shrimp. I walked away feeling pretty good, and the weirdest thing is, it made me think that maybe carnivore wouldn't be that bad. But over the last few weeks, I didn't have a choice. I needed to increase my intake of vegetables. I've seen that regression in my digestive health. I think for my body, I don't know I think on paper, my diet is more healthful, but in terms of how I feel, I don't think it was a positive change for me. Which I feel, I mean, as a dietitian, I don't even know if I should be like saying that, but that's genuinely what my experience has
And I
been.
think that just goes to show, you know, everyone is an individual. Your physiology is very unique. So diet is something that is very individual, and you need to find something that works for you. And that's, I think, the big thing in dietetics is like helping people find the healthiest diet that works for them. For me, on the other hand, what I want to keep from this is actually how many fruits and vegetables I was eating and how much fiber I was eating. I don't think that I was necessarily eating like a small amount before, but I will say those monster poops have been very inspiring. I think having such a restricted diet also forced me to really spend more attention and pay more attention and spend more time planning out my meals, which is good for me because I think sometimes when I don't plan out my meals, I'm like, oh, I have nothing to eat. What I'm gonna have.
Okay, so this week has been pretty busy for me, and also I have been a lazy bum, and so I have not gone grocery shopping. And so normally, like when I don't go grocery shopping, I kind of like whip something up to eat out of what I have, which is normally like pasta with like a rogue tomato in my fridge or something, or some like cheese on toast. But kind of all my options aren't there. I could probably do some eggs, but honestly, I might just like not eat dinner. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of effort, like mental energy for the state I'm in right now.
Is the paleo diet actually healthy?
It is week 4, day 5 of the paleo diet, and I'm eating something I never imagined I would be eating on the paleo diet, but I am out of food and I have nothing to eat. So I'm actually eating from McDonald's because apparently the McDonald's hamburgers are 100% beef. I got it with no salt or pepper added. And yay, I'm so excited.
Let's talk about that. For the purposes of this video, like when we talk about whether it's healthy or not, we are going to focus more on like the physical health side of things. So talking about different physical health markers and disease states, whether it's blood glucose, blood lipids, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, that kind of thing. Of course, we know that food plays a much bigger role than just those things. For the purposes of this video, we're going to focus the physical health side of things. I think a good place to start would be comparing the paleo diet with common recommendations that are out there. When we talk about the paleo diet, especially in comparison to a lot of other fad diets and other types of eating patterns that are out there, the paleo diet, there actually is quite a bit of overlap between their tenets, their recommendations, and a lot of public health recommendations in terms of nutrition. For example, encouraging intake of fruits and vegetables, discouraging intake of processed foods, encouraging people to cook at home more, limiting intake of things like sodium or sugars or, processed foods in general. Okay, so you guys know that I've been trying really hard to keep up with my protein intake. So I had been relying on this protein powder that says it's paleo friendly. The only thing is that it does have added salt in the ingredients list. So obviously, this week I'm trying to embrace that true paleo life. So I am on my way to the store now to hopefully find canned tuna or canned salmon that has no salt added.
There are several key differences from the general public health guidance and the paleo diet, specifically the restriction of whole grains and legumes, having no specific guidance on saturated fats, and then also promoting coconut oil as a cooking oil. But honestly, the congruence between general public healthy eating guidelines and the paleo diet is pretty good. In that regard, I would say the paleo diet is a very healthful diet and one that promotes health for the most part.
And the research in this area seems to agree with that. There are a lot of randomized control trials, and there are multiple meta-analyses of these randomized control trials that show that following a paleo diet could improve markers of fasting blood glucose, fasting insulin, insulin sensitivity, cholesterol, C-reactive protein, and blood pressure.
And all of those markers are important markers when we're looking at preventing the risk of certain diseases like diabetes, heart disease, any kind of chronic condition where we're looking at inflammation. So those are really important markers to look at when we're looking at the healthfulness of the diet. And it's great to see that the paleo diet shows improvements in all these markers and also may even show improvements for things like body weight, body composition, waist circumference.
That being said, the paleo diet is not the only way to have a healthful diet. When they actually compare the paleo diet with other common health-based diets out there, for example, the Mediterranean diet, we don't see that the paleo diet is actually superior to those other diets when it comes to those types of markers.
Generally, the Mediterranean diet is more in line with what we see as like public healthy eating guidance. You can still have whole grains and legumes. So that just goes to show that perhaps the whole grains and legumes don't really have a big effect on health like Dr. Cordain seems to think that they're all killing us. And when you hear people talk about the paleo diet and try and push it on you like this is the only way to eat healthy, frankly, it's not true. And I think what we can look to the signs and see is that eating fruits and vegetables.
So I've kind of been joking about having to go to the grocery store every single day, but it's actually not really a joke. I am having to go a lot more often. It's just because I'm having to eat a lot more vegetables and fruits because there aren't a whole lot of other options on the paleo diet. You know, when it comes to cooking and meal prep and stuff, I know I'm a dietitian, but I am for sure probably one of the laziest ones out there when it comes to that kind of stuff. So for me, convenience is key, and I've really been leaning into frozen vegetables. So I mean, that's just a tip. Like if you're in your own life, like trying to increase your vegetable intake, don't be sleeping on the frozen vegetables.
Having lean proteins, having fish, having less processed foods in general does lead to better health outcomes.
I think the only area where the research kind of shows that the paleo diet might be especially lacking is when it comes to calcium intakes. And we saw that when we tracked that one day as well. My intake was only about 28% of my daily needs. I think yours was maybe a little bit higher.
Half of my daily needs. When we look at the North American diet, most people get most of their calcium from dairy. So if we're going to make a diet where people aren't getting enough of a nutrient in a way that they typically do, we need to give alternatives. So, you know, Dr. Cordain should be out here telling us, you know, make sure you get this much bok choy every day, or giving us an alternative to make sure you're not deficient in calcium, which he doesn't. So
now let's talk about what everyone actually cares about, probably. I think weight loss.
Yeah. I think if we've learned anything from social media and diets, people care about weight loss.
So is the paleo diet a good way to lose weight? Well, for me, apparently it was.
I think if I was less deliberate at making sure I got enough calories throughout the day, I definitely would have lost a lot of weight on this diet. So.
Yeah, I think I can see how people could lose weight on the paleo diet just because you're cutting out so many foods. My caloric intake definitely took a hit as a result.
See, I was deliberate. I had my avocado. I was eating at least one avocado a day, coconut milk.
That's the only way to do it, right?
You have to be very deliberate with it. And I'm pretty sure my daily calories was mostly from fat.
While I think it could be possible to lose weight, is it actually more effective, or is it one of the best ways to lose weight? It doesn't, I mean, the research is kind of mixed in this area. There's one research study that was comparing the paleo diet with the Nordic nutrition recommendations, and it seems like at the 6-month mark, the paleo diet was more effective at weight loss, but all difference was lost by the 2-year mark.
I think people are looking for the secret diet that is the secret cure to obesity, or the secret cure to help you lose the last 10 pounds, whatever it is. And the thing is, there isn't really a diet out there that is the diet that's going to help you lose weight. The diet's going to help you lose weight, if that's what your goal is the one that you can actually stick to. And I think that kind of brings us to the topic of adherence. There was a cohort study. They had a big group of people and they said, here's your diet options. Pick one that you want to do. Pick some exercise you want to do. And let's see what happens. And when they looked at the adherence to diets in this group, the least amount of people actually chose the paleo diet, which was interesting. I think that they had options of intermittent fasting and the Mediterranean diet as well. 12 months later, when they wanted to see how things are going, the fewest amount of people in the paleo group were actually able to stick with it, which shows that the paleo diet had the lowest adherence out of all of the options that people were given.
So I guess that brings us to the question of how did you find it in terms of how hard was it to adhere to all the rules? We were, especially over the last week, we were trying to do true paleo too. Okay, we're starting off our week of true paleo with a confession. I have been eating these cashews from Costco for the last 3 weeks. I was like, cashews are super paleo, right? What's more paleo than cashews? This past weekend, my eyes just happened to drift over to the ingredients list. And what do I see there? Highly refined peanut oil. I swear to God, this entire time, I thought these cashews were dry roasted. I am so pissed off that I cannot have these for the rest of the week.
I felt this last week just because I knew that the end was in sight. It was actually harder to stay into the paleo. I think for the most part, I did eat some plantain chips though.
You did not tell me that. I was so close to having a Zevia last night.
Oh, really?
I was with some friends and I don't know, she always offers them when I'm there, and then she offered and I was like, yeah. And then I took it, and then it was when I sat down on the couch, I was like, I'm not supposed to be having this. And then I just put it down and was because I didn't want to be I'm doing this.
Honestly, the biggest thing is the social thing. The hardest thing is saying no to people and just being that asshole, being actually I'm doing paleo. So
I will say though, when I know Reddit is Reddit. I don't know if I should be taking my information too seriously from there, but I'm pretty sure everyone on paleo Reddit is have salt, it's fine. Have rice, it's fine. People I don't know how people, like, we're doing, like, we're following Dr. Cordain's principles,
yes.
commandments.
The 25,000 commandments.
I don't know if that's how most people are doing it.
I don't think it is. I honestly don't think it is. The paleo diet is definitely a very healthful diet. We see that in the literature. We see that when we just look at the components of the diet. However, it's not the only way to be healthy.
Tell us what diet we should do next.
Definitely. Please let us know what diet.
We have ideas. I have something for you.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I think I know what it is. Oh my god.
Happy end of paleo.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness. As you're like... This is amazing. Okay, we got some gummies. I'm fucking so sorry.
I was literally like, I need to find the saltiest chips I can find.
Made out of potatoes. Are these 2-bite brownies? Can you, like, I know you want to do that to the end of the day. Can we?
Are we gonna cheat?
I think we should break it on the camera right now for all of our followers with a 2-bite brownie. A potato. I'm gonna like roast this. I don't even know what I'm gonna do. Mash it.
This is such a cute potato. Hey, I picked the prettiest one.
I think if you were a potato, this would be you. This is like a cute potato. It's like very smooth.
It's very smooth. It's pretty, like,
you know.
Yeah,
really well formed.
Yes,
well formed potato. Just
yes.
like you. You're my little well formed potato.
Oh my god! I can't believe I'm doing it.
2-bite brownie. Oh my god.
Okay, I hope this is
okay,
good.
this is for you to Dr. Cordain. There you go. Cheers. This is so good.
Are you getting emotional?
Oh wow, this is so good.
I don't even want to talk right now.
Okay.
So that you don't have to watch us pound these. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us what diet we should try next. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. I don't know if I said all the things. I'm thinking my heart is like beating fast.
On that note, thanks for watching. Bye.
Yeah.